Welcome to the March Academic Advising Workshop. We're going to be talking about creating your advising shell in Blackboard. Today our presenter is Sheila. And Sheila's got some interactive activities for us, and we'll look forward to listening to Sheila, and it's really more of a show and tell and very much hands-on.
I know it's a little cold out there first day of spring, right? How lovely is that? But what I want to do first is just go around and introduce ourselves. And I'll kind of start just so you can get the ball rolling here. But my name is Sheila McEachran. I am a professor in the Nuclear Medicine Technology program in the College of Health Professions. We recently had that name change, so we're now Health Professions. And I've also been very entrenched during the last year in 2 years actually, Blackboard training. And I've had some of you guys in my classes, and also with Quality Matters. So I hope to incorporate some of that in today's lessons too. But the focus, of course, is to talk about how we can use Blackboard or Ferris Connect as an advising tool. What's the best way we can do that? So as Deb said, we're going to make this as interactive as we can. But what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself, tell me which area of the university you're in. If you could tell me a little bit about your Blackboard experience, and that'll help me kind of fine-tune what tools we'll go over, etc. And then the last thing I want you to do is to give me one word and how your students would describe you as an advisor and why. In fact, they'd probably say I was annoying recently because I've been adding a lot to their Blackboard advising, and so the ones that have it on their app, it's going ding, ding, ding. They're like, okay, what is she doing? In a series of like 20 minutes, they were getting 10 different sounds going off, and they were probably thinking I'm pretty annoying at that point too. So I agree. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it very much. What I have done for you, and if you'd like to, go ahead and sign on to your Ferris Connect. And you will see a shell there that is an academic advising session kind of shell. I've added you as a course builder because we're going to play around a little bit with this course today. I wasn't able to get you each your individual shell ahead of time, but the idea is when you leave here today that you are going to order your own shell, because that's going to be the deliverable, is for you to order your own and put in the appropriate tools that you feel that you're going to use that we'll be talking about today. And then you will add myself as a user, and that way we can, I can check it out, and then you can get your PDI monies. Please. Matt asked if, how do we keep this open after the semester? If you do it as a non-integrated shell, it will stay there.
And you manually populate it.
And you manually populate it. Now they can do that for you, and we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. So if you don't want to type all the names in, they will do that for you. I mean Scott Randall, Mary Holmes in that group. They will do that, and I actually checked with them, and they said they would. Okay. I like to be able to do it myself because my advisees change all the time, and so I can take away, put in, do whatever I need to semester to semester. Okay. Good questions. All right, so did everybody get on here okay? Is everybody in their Ferris Connect? All right, great. So this is kind of the home dashboard area, obviously. So what I really want to do is, before we go into this one, I just want to show you just briefly my shell, and then we're going to talk about the different functions and what type of needs that your students have in Blackboard. Now, just from the discussion here, it sounds like some people use it extensively, some not so much. So if I'm going through areas that you're not sure about, please let me know, okay? Because we're going to talk about some decisions to make as you go through here. So I'm going to go back to my courses here, and I have a NucMed advising shell that I'm currently using. And if we look at mine, it basically, I still have my home dashboard, and I use that quite frequently. But I also have a Start Here section, and this is what I urge my students to begin with. And I give them a welcome. I talk about important information, why they should read their emails, where they'll see whether they have completed what they needed to or not. I basically use my Grade Center as a complete, incomplete, so they know what's going on. The course content, I have my curriculum check sheets, a lot of good program information, professional information, etc. So there's a lot of different things that I have in here, and it's fine-tuned for my students. Now my students are only in the Nuclear Medicine Technology program, and they are only the one in the professional sequence. I currently don't have any of the professional or pre-professional students or kind of general students, so it's a different population. Some of you I know have everybody across the board from a lot of different disciplines, so yours is going to look a little different maybe than mine, just based on that fact. So why do we need this shell? Why do you think this would be important to have a shell like this? Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. It's kind of like a compass. It's a place for your students to go. They know they can contact you. They know all the information they need is right there, and they don't have to keep going through, as the students call it, the Ferris wheel, okay, trying to find a policy or a form or a check sheet. It's all right there for them. It's very convenient. We want to have that kind of one-stop shopping, right? We urge that at Ferris to do those type of things. So this is what we're trying to get to with this shell. Now, I've been at Ferris for 19 years. I've done a lot of advising. I've had times where I've had 400 advisees. I'm now down to only about 60, so a little difference there. But when I had all of those, and we had to meet with every single one of those students each semester, you know exactly how hard that is, right? Some of you guys are nodding, going, yes, I do the same thing. This cuts that down dramatically. Just the communication itself gets cut down dramatically because everything is in there. The second piece why I think it's really necessary is it builds a sense of community. And we're really all about, with students being, whether in our classroom, our advisees, or however we're dealing with them, as being kind of our community, right? And we want to establish that they feel that sense of community. They feel that they can approach you. They feel that you're accessible to them. How many times have you heard from students that they can't find their advisor at all, can't find them, don't know when their office hours are, even if it's on the door, they still can't find the office hours, or they're not there during their office hours. They had to register yesterday, they can't find their advisor, on and on. And I know all of our colleges do advising differently. Some of you guys have group advising sessions, some don't. It's all the one-on-one. But wouldn't it be nice if we could make this easier for the students? And if it's easier for the students, you know it's going to make your life easier too, right? So what I want to do to kind of start out with and get some discussion going before we get into the tools and how to set things up, so I'm going to ask you to grab an Easter egg for me. So inside of your egg is going to be a little slip of paper. And that paper is going to describe maybe a type of student or a situation that you're in. So for instance, I have the eager beaver, okay? How many of you guys have the student that is right there all the time going, okay, what do I got to do? You know, I want to make sure all my ducks are in a row, got to make sure we're doing everything okay. Knowing what you know about Blackboard and thinking about the shell, how could we maybe accommodate the eager beaver? How could we accommodate them? Pardon?
Send them to your site.
Send them to the site. Send an email at the beginning of the semester and say, hey, we have this really cool advising shell. Check it out. You know, those are the ones you're going to cut down. I have a student that used to come to my office on a weekly basis, not about the homework, not about the readings. Am I on the right track? Have I taken all the classes I'm supposed to take? Are you sure? Now, I was looking at it, and it looks like maybe I need another cultural enrichment. Nope, you're good. I'll have it. I had it documented, everything. But hey, he wanted to be sure. He had his mom call me to make sure. So he was eager. He wanted to know that he had everything done. So and that's sometimes a good scenario, right, versus some of the other ones, but still you have those. So let's go around kind of see what you had, and we'll start at the back this time. There we go. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have the procrastinator.
Oh, perfect. The procrastinator. And they're always the ones that do email you at 3 in the morning and expect you to answer them by 6 or, yeah, when they, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what else can we do to help the procrastinator?
I stop making it story.
Yeah, I'm with you with that. I feel that way too. A lot of times it's not a willful procrastination, it's I just don't know what to do type of procrastination. Yeah, exactly. Directing them to the right sites to my degree. Doing a little Tegrity and showing them how to use it. Because I have so many students go, I don't get my degree. I don't understand it. What does that squiggly line mean? You know, that does, is it done or not done? Well, at the top there's a key, but they don't look at the key. So how do you use that, right? So, all right, what did you have? How can we help the students? I need help now. How would maybe a Blackboard shell help that student that wants it now?
I think that check sheet that you mentioned.
Yeah, it goes back to what kind of what Matt said, helps a lot. Yeah. But what if they're the ones that are like, I have to register tomorrow, and I just realized that I have a shell, and I need that hold off now. But they can't get hold of you. You're in class, you're doing something else, and you just can't do it now. What usually happens when they can't get a hold of you?
You call someone else.
They call the department secretary, or they call the dean's office, and then they're coming after you saying, how come you're not getting the holds off? Student can't get a hold of you. So we'll talk about some ways that maybe we can help with that too, those students that want it now. Okay, so what did you have?
I can never find you.
I can never find you.
Told you.
It freaks students out when they see something incomplete.
Yeah.
Or give them an F.
Yeah.
That really scares them. Or a 0. It's like, oh, what did I get a 0 from? You know, I need to correct this. And that, you're right, and that's the reason I did that. It was just to make them cognizant of the fact that, hey, there's something out there not done. Yeah, good. So what else are things that they say they can never get hold of you? Exactly, and that makes a good point. You know, it's good because you can track. You're going to get those students to say, I couldn't find you, or I couldn't get hold of you on the Affairs Connect, and you look, and they haven't been on it in the past 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Well, when did you try getting hold of me? Oh, I sent you 3 emails last week through the course. We can see every button they push. We know exactly if they've been there or not. So it does track it. So that's a great tool for that. So yeah, that's good for those online kids. This is the only way they really want to communicate. You know, we know our students now. You know, they don't always want to come onto campus. They don't want to come face to face, or they can't. We have many students, and I have a lot of BS completion degree students, and they're sitting in Arizona, California, Montana. They are not coming to campus, obviously, to meet with me. So we have to find a way in order to do some of that online. And then you also get the students that online please means, I only want online classes. And there's a special way now, don't we, that we have to register our online students because they have to take the new tutorial. And they're not understanding that. I don't know how many emails I've had in the past couple weeks. I can't register for this class. Well, did you take the tutorial? What tutorial? Even though I have it even on there to make sure to do it in the link, they're still going, what are you talking about? And Ferris thought, I mean, from what I've talked to people, thought they did a really good job of letting people know about that. But there was a lot of kids that did not know about it, that
Not reading their Ferris email.
They don't use their Ferris emails. That's another great point. So, what did you have, Jennifer?
Oh, I need to get my hold taken off.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a number one, right? I need my hold taken off. Just get it off. I don't care. Just get it off. You know, that type of thing. So we'll talk more about those, obviously. Matt, what did you have?
I hate everything,
Yeah.
and actually quite fits my personality. I actually attribute that to, again, frustration, lack of information, lack of perceived response time.
Yes.
All of those things, I think, just by definition, are tempered by having that 24-hour access to a lot of information.
Exactly.
And a lot of tutorials, I think. I think I've made the assumption that my students know everything about moving around in an online environment, and I'm just learning that is a terrible
Yeah.
assumption to make,
Yeah.
that they just don't know half. They know how to go on Facebook and, you know, find videos on the web, but they don't know much past that
Right.
in many instances.
Right. And you're right. I think the reason they hate everything is obviously because they've either been burnt in the past about something, they are just of that mindset, their personality, they're not going to like anything no matter what you do. But usually it's from frustration, definitely. So we'll talk about some of those things too. So Lisa, what did you have?
Any scholarships available?
Yeah, any scholarships available. I get that a lot with these classes. I get a lot of emails about that. Now that my financial aid is being cut, are there any scholarships available? So I use this to put up scholarship opportunities. I send announcements out. Hey, there's the Paul Cole Scholarship from the Society of Nuclear Medicine is coming up March 31st. Get it in. You know, we have a minority scholarship. Hey, there's the qualifications. Put the link on. Anything you can do to help them be successful academically, this is what you can use this site for. So it's not just about just the advising. We need to think beyond that scope a little bit. So what did you have, Deb?
Mine says, what's a check sheet or what is my degree? And what I think happens with many students is their advisor doesn't send a letter out saying, registration will be coming up. Here's how you get into my degree. Take a look at it.
Yeah.
Be prepared to know what classes you want to take next semester, look at the catalog.
Because bottom line, who is really accountable for making sure that they get their classes done? Is it you? Really, bottom line? No, it's the students. So any way that we can help them do that to be successful is great. We're going through it right now in our college where everybody has applied for their professional sequence. And because they might not have done what their advisor told them to do, or because they just didn't understand what they were supposed to do, they didn't get into their professional sequence because they were missing a class, their GPA wasn't correct, something like that. And that's so frustrating for the students. And that's when you get the parents coming in and you get people, I've been waiting 2 years to get in this program and I didn't get in because I missed a class. And it could have been like just a psych class that was a requirement. They were so concentrating on their science courses that they didn't do the other things that they need. So we get a lot of that frustration. And I'm sure you guys have been talking about this in your other sessions too. But now I want to kind of take this to the level of how can we help them with this Blackboard, okay? So let's go through some things with Blackboard. Now some of this, like I said, may be refresher, and I apologize if it is. But I want to make sure that we are understanding how we want to set this up, and so when you have your deliverable, you can do it okay. Now first of all, I left this just as is. So it's not customized. So we can sit obviously and play around with it and make it any way we want it to look. I change mine periodically just because I get bored with the way it looks. So I'll change it, and the students will come in and say, hey, it changed color. It's like, at least they're noticing. So that's a good thing. So we can, of course, change it any color we want to. You guys are all course builders right now, so if somebody else changed it, it's going to keep flipping around up here, and that's fine. So if somebody else wants to change it, that's all right. Now, as you know, in the left-hand menu, all of these are what comes as a now shell. So I play around with this a lot. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like necessarily the way it's set up, even though I did some of this. Like I made sure they had these titles now on it for course content. I set up a lot of the resource help areas with the Faculty Center. But here's the decisions you need to make first about any of your Blackboard courses when you get this shell. Do you like what is here? Okay, do you like the content? Well, I leave my home dashboard, but that's entirely up to you. How many of you guys get rid of your dashboard and make a different page as your entry point? Okay, a couple, okay. And that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I just maintain it because sometimes I end up using it, and I change this around all the time, you know, for different classes, and that's the only reason I use it, but you certainly don't have to. Now, they have this instructor content here right away. And I think that's great that they did that, because that was one thing that we had asked that they add into the shells, because students wanted that. They weren't sure how to contact. How many of you use your contact areas? Okay, good. I use contact.
Quick question.
Yes, please.
Can you migrate anything over, or do I have to type it in every time?
Yeah, you can migrate stuff over from course to course.
Or instructor content?
You could, if you did it from one course to another course. But it depends how you use it, yeah, too. And of course, I don't like it up there. I always put it under my communication, but that's entirely up to you guys where you would like to have that. That's just me. Okay. Now, under instructor contact, here's what you might want to do. If we go to that area, we can obviously create our own contact, right? You can put your contact information in, put your picture in, or something. It doesn't have to be your picture. If you think, you know, most of the students know you, but maybe they don't. And you want them to recognize you as you're walking around the hallways, walk around campus and go, oh, that's my advisor. You know, I've never met her face to face, but that's a picture I saw on there. So sometimes that's okay for these advising shells to actually put a picture. A lot of people put avatars or little cartoon characters of themselves. I have some cute ones that I use that are, I'm a big bow hunter. I have like the women's state record for turkey bow archery and all these things. So I'm really into archery. So I have a little red-headed, archer, in mine as my avatar. And the kids that know me know that, and they laugh about it, and they think that's funny. But here's the other thing, though, that I want you to think about for contacts. Under creating your folders, this is where you might want to have information for different areas. For instance, you might want to create a folder and call it scholarships. Okay, so we could add something here. Whoops, enter names, Sheila. Okay, put scholarships. Or whatever we wanted. I always color code things because I hate the black, but that's just me. And so now I have a folder that says scholarships under contacts. And I might change this so it doesn't say instructor contact, it just says contacts. And as you probably all know, to change that, you just go over to your chevron and you can rename your link. Does everybody know that they can do that, right? You could rename any of your links. And I might just want to put this as contacts. Now you might be asking yourself, how would students know that that was under there? If you have a student that really isn't savvy about going through the courses, maybe they've only had web enhanced courses like your course where they're only really looking for grades and they haven't really had much contact with them. What I always do under my start here is a little Tegrity. And on the Tegrity, I walk them through this shell so that they know where everything is. How many of you have used Tegrity before? Okay, good, a fair number. Fairly easy to use, right? Okay, it is already loaded on here under Tegrity Classes. It's very simple just to click on that, record your course. You can see your desktop. They can hear you talk. It's best if you do have a microphone. I've learned the built-in microphones aren't the best, but most departments have one that you can borrow or somebody has one in your area. And I would use the microphones. And then you can go ahead and navigate through this course and show them. Now some instructors, what they like to do, or advisors, will say, okay, you have to do this Tegrity first, and you have to do this quiz about this shell in order for me to take your advising hold off. So they put them through this little tutorial, and they have them do this quiz as many times as they need to. It could only be maybe 5 questions. And they can do it until they get all 5 right, and as soon as they get all 5 right, you can release their hold. So there are advisors, and I know some in our college that are doing that. Our Healthcare Systems Administration program coordinator, Terry Harper, does go through and do that. And she told me I could kind of show off a little bit about that for her. So I think that's a great idea. How many think that would be something you'd like to incorporate? Is maybe putting a Tegrity in, along with a little start here quiz, whatever you want to call it, and hit those most important aspects of your shell or of advising that semester. Some advisors do this semester by semester. So they have a little tutorial maybe in their start here that they initially have to do, but then next semester they have a new Tegrity that talks about specific things that are happening that semester. So it could be this online tutorial. Did you know that you had to do an online tutorial prior to registering for your online classes? Did you know there's a delay in registering for your online classes? Those type of things. And students tend to do well with those, especially if you set them up so they can take them multiple times. And that's always kind of fun. Okay? So can you guys think of ways that you might want to use this contact area? Yep, Deb, a great point. It may be things like the registrar's office, financial aid, any of disabilities offices, because it is in the resource section, but sometimes students don't want to try to figure out how to get to it, even though it's pretty easy down there. Go ahead and put it up in that contact information. Have it as important contacts and then list maybe what those are. And it could be those various offices. Nothing wrong with that. If you build it correctly, students could put their own contacts in certain areas too, if they want to contact each other, but that gets a little iffy because we're going to do that through the mail. Yes, please. Individually. Yes, he's asking if he has to add his advisees individually. You can, because you're going to create this as a non-integrated course.
Yeah, you certainly, you can, you just
You can.
type username
Or, Yes, you can. Or you can give that list to Scott Randall and Mary Holmes, and they will put those in for you.
Oh, nice.
Okay, and I did talk to them, and they said they are able to do that. So all you have to do is let them know. Give them the list of your username, which is very simple to pull off. Yep, and they will do that for you. So not a problem.
Names again, please?
Scott Randall?
Scott Randall, okay.
Yep, he'd be the first point.
Perfect.
That's who I would contact about it.
All right, that saves a whole bunch of time.
A lot of time, especially if you have a lot of advisees. Know that you might have to change them up, periodically, drop them, that type of thing. But as long as you do this as a non-integrated course, that's the important piece. And when you order that, we'll talk about this at the end too, but when you order it, there's a little box you check that says, are you going to enroll them? Yes or no? And if you want them to do it, put no and then supply him with the list. Okay? Yep. I would say yes anyways and still supply him with the list. That way you have some control over who you want to add and subtract. Yeah, good question. Okay, so contact, as I said, was already there. Now this little content area, as you guys already know, is just kind of your general building your content area. And you can certainly change that into anything you want. You saw on mine that I had the curriculum check sheets under that area. I had about the profession, about the program. So you can have lots of different content areas over here. Now how well versed do you guys feel in adding things into your building your content? Pretty good? So I've seen some, yeah, no. Okay. Most things really for this, you can probably just add as items. Okay. So you're going to put in a check sheet. You could add as an item, cut and paste it in, or upload it there and they can click on it right away. Here's what I would caution though about, is not to have a content area that is super heavy with click this, then enter that folder, then enter this folder, then enter that folder, and pretty soon they're trying to swim out of this course. It's all about, if you really go through Quality Matters, it's all about chunking. Chunking your information together. Because if not, they're going to get lost. So think about these content areas that you want, and think about making modules or content folders. I use learning modules a lot. So for instance, I would click on this learning module, and I might call this one program information. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and submit that. So now what I've done is created under, if I just want to have one content area over here on the left, I have my program information, and now I list all my program information under that one. And I might create another folder here that is about my profession. Oops, if I can type today. Okay, so there's another folder that I could have. Let me get rid of that one that I goofed up on. Or somebody else put it in there, didn't they? And I just erased it for you, sorry. Okay, so about my profession. So now they could click on these and have all the information they want under those, rather than to have a folder and that, or an item and then, or a folder and then another item and folder and another item and folder. Everybody kind of see what I'm getting at? Think about chunking your information together. So that's very easy. Now personally, I've found on these advising shells that this I would put over here in content and just let them click on that and then everything would be there. Your classes, you may do that differently, of course, but for here, I found that that's a really easy thing to do. Okay? And questions about how you might want to chunk your content together. Okay. Tools. Tools is where we get a little tricky. I'm going to give you something that this is what my students have told me feels like when somebody just uses that tool key. It's a maze. If you just have tools there, if you guys, as you guys know, if you click on tools, what do you see? All the different tools. And they're going, okay, I'm supposed to get hold of my instructor. Am I supposed to get hold of them in the emails, the chat, the messages? What do I use? And they get very, very confused. You might as well just give them this. Say, find your way out. Because that is really what happens. They get so confused. Students tell me all the time, and I do some of the training in Blackboard for students too. And the thing they tell me all the time is, I get buried in the course. I can't find my way out. I don't care what kind of crumbs are up there. If you call them breadcrumbs, cookie crumbs. I like cookies better than bread, so they're cookie crumbs for me. So cookie crumbs, or if it's the fact that they don't know what to go to. Okay, so it's confusing for them, and we all have our own styles, and I'm certainly not telling you to do one type of style, but make sure that it's clear to your students what you want them to do. And again, it goes back to that tutorial that you might want to do in that quiz. That's going to help out a lot too. Okay, so don't create this for them. Let's make it clean. So I get rid of, and Jennifer said too, I hate tools. Let's get rid of those tools, okay? So we want to get rid of the tools. And so instead, I just delete this out and I add my own. And I assume you all know that you can just go up under the plus sign and you go Tool Link. And if you want announcements is one of your tools, or let's just say it's something that's not on there. Let's say we want, let's just look, calendar. You type in what it is, a tool, click, make it available. This is something we forget sometimes, is to click that available key, and then submit it. And now we have on here our calendar, so we can add our calendar up under something that's important to us. And get rid of this. And all you have to do to get rid of it, obviously, is delete it. So hit that chevron and then delete. So someone else is playing right now, so I can't do it, but that's what you're going to do with it. Okay? So tools. My grades, here's where we talked about the fact I use my grades in this. And I use my grades as, I said, a complete, incomplete, because it's a flag. It throws up a red flag. I don't want something incomplete in there. How I do it is I have it by each semester, so fall semester, or summer semester, fall semester for right now, let's say. And once they have done what they needed to for me in that shell, I go in and I put, you could just put a 0 in, it doesn't matter what you put in. And then because I have it set up as complete or incomplete, it clicks it as complete. If there's nothing in there, it's incomplete. So they're seeing incompletes keep popping up. Now I know some other advisors that actually do give a grade in there, or points. And the goal at the end of each semester is for you to have earned a certain number of points through the advising shell. Now that is good or bad, because students are like, well, what do I get out of it? It's not a graded thing. What do I get? And I don't know anybody right now that's giving any incentives for doing that, like extra credit or a prize or anything like that. But that's something that's being talked about. There's a bunch of us talked about it not too long ago. What if we did that and said, if you got your stuff done by a certain date, we'll put your name in for a prize and you win maybe a t-shirt from your college as an incentive to try to get them to go through and do that faster. Maybe it worked? What do you think? Could. It's kind of that whole bring food, they will come thing, If you have some type of incentive, they like to do it. I think giving extra credit's tough for that because a lot of them aren't program-specific advisees, so that really wouldn't work. But why not maybe have something? And a lot of our colleges have little things that you could give away. Mm-hmm. Maybe something to ask about. You would hope that they're doing because they want to. You would hope. But you get those that are waiting to the last minute, I need it now, maybe this would help a little bit. I don't know. That's just something that some people have been talking about. It's not all bad. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, and then we'll go back to some more of the tools to talk about. Announcements, I think, are especially important. Remember, when you send an announcement, it also goes out to their email. You would hope that they're all using their Ferris emails, because that's where it's going to go. But this is where that student said I was really being annoying because I was sending out a bunch of scholarship announcements and it kept beeping on her. But that's okay. I'd rather have her be annoyed by me a little bit. At least I know she's getting the information, so that's good. But I send out announcements quite frequently, maybe not as much at the beginning of the semester, but as we get closer to that time of registration, I'm sending out more and more announcements. Now, if you send out too many, what happens?
They won't pay attention.
Yeah, they don't pay attention. It's sensory overload, And putting the little subject, make sure it's something that's a little catchy, because Ferris also sends them out a lot of announcements. So you wanted something that's going to kind of jump out, that it's about your advising and not just a general advising. Don't just put advising. Because a lot of times they just blow that off. They think it's a Ferris, something being sent out again. So if you put something out there, like sometimes I put important to email Sheila and put my name in it sometimes even. Something that'll just jump out at them that's different than all the other things they've been having. And you know, if you put graphics in it, that's okay. You can do whatever you kind of like with that. Now here's what you need to decide, as you guys have had to decide in your Blackboard courses. Do I want to use course emails or do I want to use course messages? And as you guys know, there's a big difference, isn't there? I would encourage you in an advising course to use your messages, which is your within the course email, right? Versus the email that is outside. And here's the only reason I say that for an advising course is because in messages, it is always archived within that shell. So if an advisee comes back and says, hey, you never sent me this, or I sent you this, but you didn't respond back, you have a record of that. If you do that in your emails, there's many times that you say, oh, I'll just make a folder and I'll be good about putting them in the folder. Well, I don't know about you, but I teach 9 classes. I'm at 25 contact hours. I don't have time to remember to put everything in a folder all the time. But if it's already in that course, I don't have a problem with it because it's there. Does that kind of make sense for everyone? Is everybody doing that pretty much now? Or using both? Or I would encourage you not to use both. It gets too confusing to the students. In fact, I usually change where it says course messages into course emails. Then it makes more sense to my students. So I definitely use announcements a lot, definitely use this course messages a lot, or course emails. What I was going to do a little exercise, but I think I'll wait and we'll just talk about some of these tools instead. Normally what I do, I have you partner up, and this is something you could do with your students in a class too, to think about how to, and some of you have had to do it in my QM courses, where I partner you up and I have one person tell the other person how to make a paper airplane. But that person can't ask any questions. They can't talk. They're just basically sitting there while a person is demoing with a piece of paper how to make a paper airplane. Now what happens, this is like an online course. You're sitting there telling somebody how to make the paper airplane. But that person's not responding. They're not questioning. And you're assuming that the way you're doing it is fantastic and that person's going to make the best paper airplane ever. Exactly like you did it. Realistically, is that going to happen? Probably not. Some people will. Some people they'll keep going back through it like 20 times. But it depends how you do it, doesn't it? That's why I want to think about these tools here. If you do that and you have done it in Tegrity, or you have videoed it in another type of format, and you're actually showing them, more people would be able to do it, wouldn't they? What if instead of showing, you're just talking about it? Not as many are going to be able to get it. What if you're typing it out and giving it a word with no pictures, diagrams, anything to help them? Nope. So you need to think about that even in this advising shell. Even though this isn't a teaching shell, it's an advising shell. You still have those students that need more than just, this is what you need to do, and typing it out. You also need to remember that you are going to have students that have varying levels of disabilities. I have advisees that can't hear. So if I do Tegrity, I can't just have Tegrity. I also have to have things written out, because there's no way they're going to be able to hear that. So you have to be very careful and think about your audience, because sometimes you don't know these students very well. Now some of you know the students very well, they're your advisees. Like I said, they're knocking at your door all the time, so you're always seeing them. But that's not always the case. So think about this the same as you would for a shell that you would for a class. Think about all the different types of learners you have and how you're going to be able to their requirements, okay, and help them out. All right, we talked about some different types of students and what do we have, some of these scenarios that we had. of the tools that you're currently using in Blackboard, which ones do you think that you could use for this advising shell? Let's go through some of them and see what you think. I'll put them up here so you can see them better. Okay, announcements we talked about, help. Okay, how about blogs? How many use blogs in your online courses? I've tried it. I've tried everything in there at one time, probably. Do you think a blog would work for a advising?
Maybe.
Students like them. Yeah, maybe why?
Maybe just from their experience that, yes, go out and check the catalog and make sure you have the prerequisite.
Yeah.
Might be easier taken from a fellow student
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
the professor. It's
They're
really
very
true.
social. They're very social. So she's saying, yeah, it could work just because they will take that advice from a fellow student more quickly than they will from another faculty member. I use the chat quite a bit, and or discussion board, either one. And I have what I call the mud puddle in my courses, all my courses. It's called the mud puddle. And it's areas where things might be muddy and not clear. And anybody can go in there and say, hey, where did you go to find that tutorial? I want that link, and I don't know if it was working right. Is there another way to get it? It doesn't have to always be me answering the questions. Other students are on that more than I am, it seems like, and they're answering it. So you could call it the mud puddle, you could call it the advising whatever, make up some cute name for it, and tell them what it's about in your announcements or your start here. Hey, use this area. And the students really use it. It's surprising to me how much they go into that. So that would be something kind of along those same lines. Calendar. Do you think calendar would be good? Yeah, calendar is good because it's going to show up whenever they sign into Fairs Connect. Everything for every class that they're enrolled in will show up. So that's going to show up just like anything else. So if you wanted to be really particular, say even send them their advising dates. But you really don't want to put names probably on your calendar. It's hard to individualize that, so you be careful. That's the other thing with advising. Follow your FERPA, obviously, and make sure you're being good about that. My grades we talked about. Collaboration. I'm not sure how that would work for an advising shell. That'd be kind of interesting to see, but I guess you could maybe use it. Again, discussion boards work very well. Glossary is not bad. I've used glossaries in many of my courses, and there may be terms about advising that are just specific to your program that students might not understand. Like we use eligibility, and they don't have that just as Ferris as, what does that mean, eligibility? So we might want to define that and have a glossary there for them. And if it's there, they're going to check it out. They're going to look at it. Or have that as part of your quiz, one of the words on it that they have to look up. So you definitely could use that. Journals, I'm not sure. Wiki, I'm not sure how you would use that in an advising course, but you might be able to. Okay. Questions about what we've talked about so far with building a shell, or how we could use some of these things. I'm again assuming that you have the base content or know how to use it. So let me open it up for questions. The idea is to plant the seed. Okay. The deliverable, as we said before, is going to be that you are going to request a non-integrated Fairs Connect shell. Does everyone know how to do that? How to order their shells? On My FSU, under Faculty Services, left-hand side, you want to do that. And then I say create a site that best meets the needs of your advisees. Now you can play around with this one first that I have you enrolled in if you'd like before you have your other one. But I want you to add all the appropriate tools, any pertinent information you feel would be beneficial for your students. I mean, when I initially set mine up, I think it took me maybe 2 hours to put in initially just all the things I wanted. And I keep tweaking it as we go, but is that fair to say it probably only took maybe a couple hours tops? Maybe not even that. To really go through it and do everything. But here's the big thing. Create that sense of community. Is there a way that you can do that? Make them feel welcome. Do a little welcome letter in your start here. Say, hey, This is what this is all about. Introduce yourself. It's kind of hard in this course. You're probably not going to have them introduce each other like you might in a classroom type setting, but I guess you could if you really wanted to. And then I want you to add me to the site. Does everybody know how to do that? Let me go through that very quickly here. Go down to Users and Groups under Course Management on the left-hand side. Control Panel, Users and Group, and you're going to click on Users. Then go to Find Users to Enroll. Type in that username that I've given you on the sheet, so my username, and you can leave me as a student because I just want to look at it as if a student was looking at it. So leave it as student, and then just hit Submit, and I should show up in your course. Okay, so just go ahead and do that. Send me an email. It just says, hey, I'm ready to go. You know, I've got it done. And I think we said that we're going to try to make the due date April 5th
It would be great.
or 8th. 8th was it?
8th
8th was a Monday. April 8th will be your due date for that one. And then I'll let Deb know that you got it done and it looks good. And I'm not looking at like perfection or anything. I just want to see that you've created it and you've put some thoughtfulness into it. That's really the bottom line. Okay? If you need assistance, please, please, please feel free to get hold of me. I have my cards there. I also put it here. And also, especially Andrew at the Faculty Center, he will sit with you and help you all day long. And I have that on tape, so I have to back that up now.
How do you add students, Sheila? Can you?
Yep, the same way. You can do one of two things, and this is kind of nice. So that's a great question. If you know their username, you could just type that in. But a lot of times we don't. So I go to this browse, and then all you have to do here is you can say, okay, I want to put a last name in. So I could just put a student's last name in there. I don't know, I'll just scare somebody's name. And then if you hit go, everyone with that name will show up, and then you could just click on it and submit it.
Wow.
It's that quick. So very, very easy to do. So just browse, and then however you want to select it. Okay? And sometimes I find actually the username doesn't always work. But if I put a last name, it brings up the list of those students and it's faster. I've learned that over time from adding and subtracting. So very, very simple to do. As long as, again, you've got it as a non-integrated course when you order it. Okay? And say that you're going to add them. Okay? All right. So any other questions, etc.? I know I went through that really